Welcome everyone to the Cardano Effect podcast, episode 12. The purpose of this podcast is to take high-level developer information and projects that are occurring within the Cardano sphere and break them down into bite-sized consumable pieces of information for everyday use. I'm your host, Philippe, and let's get this podcast started. So I first want to start off this podcast by saying that Sebastian will not be joining us today. He is on business conference right now, so we will see him in a week or so. But it's Rick and I, and we do have a special guest who Rick is going to be introducing shortly. I want to thank everyone for all the support on Reddit, all the support on Twitter, all the support on YouTube. Our numbers are doing great. And I want to preface this by saying, if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please subscribe. It really helps us out. It really helps us broaden the message and broaden the community. And any potential people that may be interested in Cardano in the future are going to have an easier time finding this podcast channel. So please do that if you haven't subscribed already. The purpose of today's episode, we're really trying to get a mix of people from IOHK that are involved within the Cardano project. So we're focusing on the developers, we're focusing on the business side, we're focusing on the marketing side, we're focusing on the recruiting side. We want to get as many people as possible to get a very clear picture of what is going on within IOHK. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to the recent article that came out regarding the GitHub commits, and Cardano was actually proven to have the highest number of GitHub commits within the past 12 months. So that is wonderful news. So everyone who is leaving comments saying that Cardano is not doing anything, please check the GitHub commits. And I'd like to finish this off by saying that none of what I say is financial advice, or none of what we say is financial advice, or should be taken as such. If you need a financial advisor, please seek someone out who is qualified to do so. If not, you are your best financial advisor. But none of what we speak about is financial advice at all. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to Rick. Rick, how are you doing today?
Hi, Philippe. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And I'm very glad to be here today on the Cardano Effect podcast. I just want to remind our viewers and listeners that the podcast is available on Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Libsyn. Just yesterday, we added Radio Public, and in a couple of weeks, we'll be adding another big one. And we'll let you know whenever that comes out in a few weeks here. I also wanted to give a shout out to one of our users on the Cardano forum, Tuan Lam, who made a really cool diagram. I'll put it up behind me, although it might be difficult to see. You can see greater detail of this diagram over on the Cardano forum at forum.cardano.org. And I posted a link in Telegram, and there's also links on other forms of social media, so you can get a look at it. And this diagram is really cool. It kind of shows the big picture of the Cardano ecosystem. Tuan Lam called it a mind map. It has all kinds of great details, and if I had my way, if I could look at this diagram, it's like a rocket ship going to the moon, if you know what I mean. Just kidding. I had to throw that in there. But it's very cool, and it has lots of detail on there. So just wanted to let you guys know that is my community shout out for today. All right, so today we have a special guest, Mr. Daniel Friedman of IOHK. He's a business development, and I got his bio here. He's been around for a while, so he has a very big bio, and I just want to read through this real quick for our listeners. Dan Friedman started his professional career in 1999 as a developer for a San Francisco-based software company, TwoBridge, one of the pioneers in web content management systems. In 2001, Dan continued his career with Java, C, C++, Oracle, and numerous web development technologies, becoming an expert in extreme programming with a special emphasis on Scrum, Kanban, as well as the business side of software development. After moving to Japan, one of my favorite countries to visit, Dan successfully applied his knowledge to the Japanese market and eventually becoming the CTO of an Osaka-based software development firm specializing in augmented reality mobile applications. Due to the huge popularity of cryptocurrency in Asia, Dan became fascinated with the world of blockchain technology and the potential this technology has in the changing world. In 2016, he joined IOHK and currently handles their business development. Dan has been educated in the United States, arriving in Philadelphia in 1989, maintains his native Russian. I guess that's a native Russian language. And is that right? Or native Russian citizenship?
No. I am an American citizen, most definitely. But yeah, my native language is Russian. That's what I speak with my parents, with my friends, and well, with my cat.
Okay. All right. So it's a native language is Russian. All right. And then you've been living in Osaka since 2012 and you speak fluent Japanese and obviously you speak fluent English as well. That's pretty awesome. So at least 3 languages on that list. So Dan, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well in this somewhat cloudy Osaka morning. I'd like to really thank you guys for what you do for the community, because energizing the community is one of our biggest and most important things that we must do. As we all know, the world of blockchain, the world of crypto, is very much community based because it's a distributed consensus in many ways. And so what you do is so important. I'd really like to thank you so much for for energizing, for engaging the community, for putting something like this together. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Dan, and thank you as well. We appreciate, we enjoy doing this is what I meant to say. We really enjoy doing this podcast. It is a lot of fun. And so to kind of let me start off with the big picture thing here. I'm not a business guy, and you and Philippe are. So if you guys could tell our viewers and our audience here, what is business development in the big picture of things?
Well, let me see. What is business development? Well, let's start with my personal picture. For me, business development is working around the clock, working in all time zones, capturing opportunities, understanding opportunities. It's waking up at 6 a.m. and the first thing you do is you check your email. You stretch your arm out, you look at your phone, you check your email. And the last thing you do before you go to bed, about 1 a.m., 2 a.m., is you do the same thing. You check, you make sure that all the opportunities are followed up on. You have everything organized. That's what it is for me. What it also is for me, in fact, I'll show you. This tank, you see this empty fish tank behind me. It's empty, because I'm sure that because we have a lot of community members that have a lot of attention to detail. Somebody will ask, why is that tank empty? Well, I'll tell you why that tank is empty. It's because I have been working so much on business development and traveling so much during this last year that I bought this tank and I wanted to fill it up, and I've been meaning to fill it up. But every time I come back home, there's the next opportunity that you need to go to, the next opportunity to explore, a market you need to open, a new community you need to engage. And it's just an ongoing thing. So, hopefully this year, I'll have some time to actually fill that tank up with fish. Although not in the next couple of months, I think. In the next couple of months, I already have my plan and my travel plans and new exciting markets that we're opening up, and we have opened up, and so maybe sometime in the summer that tank will be full.
That was an incredible story right there. And coming from an investor, a believer in Cardano long term, can you take us through the day in the life of Daniel Friedman? Paint the picture for us. Paint the picture for us as to what you do from morning to night, and what does that schedule entail?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, doing business development, and especially in the stage that we're in right now, I never feel this, how you wake up in the morning, especially on Monday, and you're like, oh God, I gotta go to work, I gotta do work. No, I don't. It's the opposite. I wake up in the morning and the first thing I think about is, okay, all right, I'm up. Okay, so what do I have to do today? I have to follow up with this guy. I have to send an email to this guy. I have to call this guy. I have to do this planning. I have to do this assessment. So I wake up. Like I said, the first thing I do is I check my emails. I check my messages. Why? Because we are a distributed team and we work all over the world. So just because it's night in Japan doesn't mean it's night everywhere on Earth. It's daytime somewhere else. There's I get a lot of messages from Europe, from the U.S. because a lot of our people are in Europe. And several people, including Charles, are in the U.S. So the first thing I do is I check messages, check emails. The next thing I do is I answer those messages and those emails, and then and only then do I actually start kind of planning out my day. So I sit down and I figure out, okay, who do I have to follow up with? What are my main objectives today? What is the most optimal way to use my time for today? It's all about time management. There is no monotony. There is no real routine. The routine is decisiveness and progress. That's the routine. So as long as we're decisive in our actions, as long as we're smart and progressing, the routine is good, and we're in the right direction. Say, for example, tomorrow I have to follow up on about 15 different opportunities. I already have about 2 pages of emails I have to answer. That's from about a day and a half of not answering emails. I also have to follow up with an event that we're putting together in Georgia. I recently traveled to Georgia and met with the amazing, everybody's really, really amazing over there. There's a lot of interest in Cardano and blockchain. And so we're actually organizing an event over there on the 25th and the 26th of January that will have a couple of lectures from our top guys, from our researchers at their university, their main university. Plus, we're going to have a meetup over there at the Techno Park facility, which is actually a government subsidized startup facility. It's an amazing facility. I was there in November. It's an amazing facility where the government actually created an incubator. They gave them this whole building, and they take startups and they give each startup a certain amount of money. They handpick these startups. Nobody pays anything. No startups actually pay anything. The government handpicks these startups and they put them into this incubator. They give them facilities, they give them some funds, and they give them exposure. And they basically incubate these, all this tech, all these different innovative companies, and basically try to bring them out into the world market. And so one of the initiatives that we're taking over there is to basically help these guys out and to kind of boost interest in blockchain technology. And so that's one of the things that I'll be doing over there is having a meetup and talking to all these guys about what they can do with blockchain tech, what they can do with Cardano, and the opportunities it has to offer for them. So I'm sorry it's a little long-winded, but my days are really long. My days are meetings. My days are planning. My days are execution of plans. And my days are basically, I guess, envisioning the long picture. Every single day I think about that. I think about what is I don't want to get caught up in the second by second of business. You want to think in, I grew up in the Soviet Union, and in the Soviet Union, we had this thing called the 5-year plan. It's a communist device, and although communists were not very good at business, they're good at oligarchy, but they're not good at business. But they did have this concept where you plan everything in 5-year intervals. And so that's what I do. I think about not about what this is going to look like today, what this opportunity is going to look like tomorrow, but what is this opportunity going to look like in 5 years and 6 months, 5 years? Just really have at least a concept of what these things look like, so that you can better understand. You can think, okay, so what is the most optimal outcome? What is the most minimal outcome? And then you can weigh yourself out. You can see, where do you want to apply your energy to? What do you want to do? What do you not want to do? And well, I guess that's how I work.
Wow, that's interesting. And, as far as the big picture of things, I was just curious if you don't mind answering a few questions. I was looking on your Twitter and I saw that you recently had gone to Tel Aviv and South Korea. And I do have to say, by the way, you dress like $1 million when you give presentations. I love your suits and the gold cufflinks and the vest. I mean, so that looks great. I just got to throw that out there. But how was it in Tel Aviv and South Korea? What was like the big picture going on over there?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I do love my suits. It's actually something. Well, first of all, it's I feel like it's my armor. When you go into battle, some people go into battle with slippers and t-shirts, and that's fine for them. I'm not judging them. For me, if you ride into battle, you don't want to wear slippers and t-shirts. You want to wear something good, something presentable, something that makes you feel good about your look. And for me, that instills confidence. So that's why I do it. My grandfather was the same. He always wore three-piece suits. He was always very clean, very professional looking, even when he just went out, for leisure. So let me tell you. Well, first of all, Israel. Yes. So let me start with Tel Aviv. Well, Tel Aviv and Israel in general was very exciting. It was an amazing trip. It's an amazing country. A lot of really cool development going on over there. A lot of really cool energy over there. The community is incredible. We were there, and we were hosted by a friend of ours, Shahaf Bargafen. He is the CEO of Coti, COTI. They have their own product. They have their own blockchain product, but it is actually it's a very specialized for specific use cases. So we're not really competitors. We're friends. And we have been friends for a while. And actually, Shahaf is a big fan of Cardano, which is why he asked us to come out and help us so much with the meetups over there and the meetings that we had over there. So what we did was we had a meetup, again organized by Coty and several other great companies, Market Across, Blockchains 101. And so it was me, our CFO, Jeff Pollock, and Esko Deverdes from our research group. So yeah, it was a great meetup, after which we actually had several days of meetings also organized by our friends over there. Again, met a lot of really cool projects. Everything from great projects that can really benefit from the Cardano from the Cardano family of products, to actually really good partnership opportunities. These deals are really early stages, you can imagine, so I can't really go into them too much, but just take my word that they're really, really interesting and really, just really engaging deals. So really excited about that. The next step over there would be to further engage the community, because what happened was, since the market downturn earlier last year, a lot of these companies that came in there, and I mean, we're not the first ones to realize the potential of Israel and the startup nation, as they're called. So a lot of companies came in there. Consensus came in there, several other ones, and they tried to capture the community. But a lot of these companies, they pulled out because of the market downturn. And that is very unfortunate, because there's still a lot of potential, and you have to think about it, as I said before, in the 5-year plan, not in what's going to happen 5 months from now, what's going to happen, in 3 weeks from now, but what's going to happen 5 years from now, because we're thinking about it in the long term. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be engaging this community. One of the first entry vectors into any market that we utilize is through education and through research. And so I plan to put together more intensive workshops that will give people a better understanding of what we have to offer, what Cardano has to offer or a suite of products, a family of Cardano products has to offer for them. And also engage with the research community, because again, a lot of really great research coming out of there. In fact, the Haifa University is basically the um, I think it is the birthplace of zero knowledge proofs. So a lot of amazing research coming out of there. So that's also something we'd like to capture, maybe work with some people again really early on, but that is the sentiment that we're getting over there. So very excited about that. The next is, well, last but not least, of course, is South Korea. Again, again, an amazing market for us, and an amazing community for us. Korea is really interested in Cardano. A lot of Cardano is, changing hands over there. And again, what we need to do over there is engage the community better. I believe that we need to be focused more on the community. We need to come in there. We need to be more present there. We do have some friends over there, and we have had several meetups over there. Charles has been over there. I've been out there with Charles, actually, once last year. But still, more work needs to be done. So what I did was I spoke at a conference over there inside FinTech, a really nice conference, and I'd like to thank them for inviting us out. It was a pleasure. And also engaged with the community and with some of the local people over there, and how to better harness the interest and focus the interest over there, and basically give the people and give the community the tools they need to really start engaging in what Cardano has to offer for them. Because there is interest, but there is a lot of, I'd say, gray gaps of knowledge, and that's what we need to do. We need to fill those gaps of knowledge with information. And I really think that is an amazing market and an amazing community, and I really look forward to working with them.
So this is interesting. Where's developers? Oh, I'm sorry. Some folks at IOHK are training developers, and then you're more like educating the leaders in business as to what you can offer. Is that how it works?
Well, it's actually both. So what I do is I go, say for example, I'm not just talking about those particular countries and those particular markets, but in general. If I go and open up a new market, I go to a country that we don't have a presence in, or have minimal presence in. I look at the market because of, well, I do business development, so I know how to develop business. I go over there and I look at the community and I see what they need. Do they need more developers? Do they need more knowledge of business opportunities? Do they need both? Do they need something else? How can we utilize what they already have? How can we boost what they already have? Like, for example, in Georgia, there is already a lot of good tech knowledge, and there are a lot of really good developers, but they are not really, blockchain developers. So what do I need to go over there and do? Just to go over there and start teaching people the basics of blockchain. Well, that's already been done. They already know the basics of blockchain. What they need to know is how to utilize their knowledge and utilize the opportunity and make it into a practical enterprise. So that's what we're going to be doing over there. And so it just varies. It varies by market. It varies by community. But I do everything. I can go over there and I can say, okay, we need to have a Haskell class over here. We need to just have a general blockchain class over here. Or no, you know what? Here we need to really energize the entrepreneurs and really energize the businesses. Or like in Israel, for example, we need to do all of the above, because all of the above are very important, and just have a lot of, it just really excites me, how much there is to work on.
Daniel, I have a follow-up question. So we had Professor Wadler a couple episodes ago, and you're talking about business development in various countries, various different places in the world. And my question is that Professor Wadler basically said that we're so early in the game as far as Plutus, Marlowe, and the development of Cardano. I mean, we're progressing, but things still have some way to go. So I'm assuming that when you're developing for Cardano in these various countries, you have to present some sort of proposition or use case scenario. And if these use cases aren't specifically defined now, and this is smart contracts as a whole, I mean, it's so early in the game, how do you go about soliciting interest when the use cases are still, it's still, I mean, it's subject to certain creativity, and you have to figure out exactly how this applies to this business versus this business versus this business, if that question makes any sense.
Yes, it does make sense, and it's actually a very good question because yes, we are early in the game. Yes, we're still developing our, our cool stuff. The stuff that actually, the products that actually set us apart from the rest. Um, so yes, Dr. Wadler is absolutely correct, and what I have to do is what we have, at business development have to do is. To really visualize what it is that we're going to be offering, and then connect it to constructs that already exist. Because we're not, a lot of times we're not really reinventing the wheel. These are products that are just a step up from what was out there. We're blockchain 3.0. We're not space chain 3.0. Because there was already blockchain 1.0 and 2.0. So we're not inventing something new and completely so adverse and so uh, new that people just have a problem understanding the basic concept of it. People already have an understanding. So what I do is I work on that. I already talk to them. I see, first of all, what kind of knowledge they have about products that are out there right now. What do they know about smart contract systems? What do they know about different smart contracts languages? What do they know about modeling languages? What do they know about the different business opportunities that that can come from using blockchain tech? See why they want to use blockchain tech. That's one of the main things actually that we do at business development is, especially with enterprise. What we don't do is shill Cardano. What we always do, and one of the first things we do, is we try to figure out if a project, doesn't matter how big it is, has, can benefit. Do they really benefit from using blockchain tech? From, and not just our blockchain tech, any blockchain tech, because there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to kind of jump on the blockchain train, but they really don't have a solid understanding or a solid picture of, okay, well, this is actually better if you use blockchain tech than traditional database systems, and ethically, it would not be good for us to really um, engage somebody in an enterprise project and start developing somebody's enterprise solution that does not really need blockchain tech. So that's a really important thing, that we need to make sure that blockchain is what they need. And if they don't need blockchain, we'll tell them what they need. You guys should really use this kind of system or that kind of system. We'll tell them why. Sometimes we'll say, okay, well, you know what you're envisioning is actually not the best way to use blockchain tech, but if you do it like this, then you can use blockchain tech. So connect it to already available constructs, so they already the understanding that they have. And so I do that, with people. I ask them, how well do you know the products like Ethereum or Neo or EOS and whatever, and ask them, what do you feel is the plus and the minus of using those products? And then when I have an understanding of what they want and what they need, I can then say, well, you know what, with Cardano, what you're going to have is actually, you see what you're telling me about ABCD and you don't like about ABCD. Well, in Cardano, we actually have ABCD taken care of in this and this and this way, is going to be available, on date X, and just kind of progress from the knowledge that they have and create a construct, and then progress and give them more knowledge and say, look, okay, well, at this particular point, we're going to be able to cover it with this particular point. We have to be able to cover it with this. So it's just all about understanding what the customer wants, what the customer needs, what's available, and what is really the cool thing about what we have available. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And moving forward into the future, you're establishing all these partnerships in all these different countries. How excited are the people that you meet? Is your Rolodex full? Are they ready to jump on as soon as Cardano starts providing the exact solution that they require? What's the response when you meet these people?
Well, I'll tell you, the response is actually really good. I hardly hit any skeptics, and I mean, I know it will happen. Somebody out there is going to be way skeptical, and I'm gonna have to have have a conversation with them where I'll have to basically come to with my guns blazing. But I never had that. I never had to do that just yet. Every single market, every single country that we went to, there's excitement. People come to us. A lot of times, actually, people come to us. There's a lot of really exciting projects in the works. Um, in fact, what we have to do at business development is sift through these projects and prioritize them and see which ones make the most sense for us, because we don't have unlimited resources at IOHK, and we really have to understand what is the most viable project for us. What is the um, what is the lowest hanging fruit, I guess you could say. And then also, because there's so many amazing projects out there and really viable projects, we have to understand, okay, so if this is not the first thing we're going to jump on, how do we still keep them in the Rolodex without them going somewhere else and thinking that we forgot about them? That's also a big part of the job. And yeah, just everywhere I went to, I never had to go outside and yell, come, get your Cardano over here, Cardano, everybody. It's always the opposite. It's always people come. It's like, oh my God, it's actually kind of funny. I mean, recently, it's been happening less and less, but when I just started going out to these smaller events and smaller community meetups, that Charles could make it to, I'd come out there and I'd say that I'm from IOHK and I represent Cardano, and I'd get this just you're from it's like we're the snuffleupagus of blockchain industry. Uh, Everybody knows about us, but people just haven't seen one of us in the real, like in reality. We're like unicorns. Um, that's been that's kind of been the reaction out there. It's happening less and less and less because we are having a lot more presence out there. However, yeah, it's been nothing but really positive and engaging interest. And again, I'm really excited about that. It's a really pleasure to do business with people who are eager to do business with you. So
I understand. I understand. That's very refreshing to hear, and I think the community will really appreciate that. Um, IOHK is working, and you're working, and I'm sure you have a lot on your plate. Moving on to a quick question that I had. As the business development guy at IOHK, how do you measure success? And a follow-up question to that is, what time period are we looking at? What's your definition of success for Cardano, and what is the time range that we're looking at? And it could just be an estimate, of course, but I know things are moving quickly, so
well, okay. How do I measure success? For me, it's impact. And what we actually do is at business development, we prioritize our projects, the opportunities that we engage in by impact, and to see what has the most the highest impact in all these criteria that we have: the financial criteria, the social criteria, And so how is this how does this fit with the company and with the product motto, with our mission? And so to me, success is something that fits the most and has the most impact across the board. Like say for example, the initiatives that we're taking in Africa. The coffee industry initiative we're taking over there, that has very good impact, that has a very good potential to have an across the board and across the board, I don't want to say impact, but just to and across the board boosting for various parties, for the industry itself, for the coffee growers, for the coffee distributors, for mass adoption of blockchain tech, which is actually a big part of what we're trying to do. So that is, when that project comes to fruition, that would be a success. If it and when it comes to fruition, the way we plan it to go, that will be a success. And again, we will. I'm looking to do the same thing in Georgia. Georgia has. I don't know if you know this or not, but actually, Georgia's got an amazing wine industry. They are kind of like the Napa Valley of Eastern Europe, and they've been making wine there for a couple of thousand years. Actually, they have over 1,500 different kinds of grapes over there. And Georgian wine, it was actually really famous across the Soviet Union. Stalin was always was known to be a lover of. I mean, I know that's not the best endorsement for anything, but he was the big guy over there. So the big guy drank Georgian wine, but it was really popular across the Soviet Union, across Eastern Europe, and now it's getting into Western Europe. It's popular with the Russian community in the U.S. And they're basically having the same issue over there as the Ethiopian coffee industry is having. Is basically there is no equality of opportunity across the board because of the processes being siloed and lack of transparency. And what I am looking to do, and what we're looking to do over there potentially, is to bring the same kind of solution that we're bringing to the African and the Ethiopian coffee industry to Georgia. So to make a long story short, and to sum it up for you, success is positive impact across the board, and success is adherence to the mission of Cardano. The most best adherence to the mission of Cardano, the most fulfillment of the mission of Cardano, and the best impact. And can you repeat the follow-up question, please?
The follow-up question was, what's the time period? I know that's an ambiguous question. It's hard to see at this point, but you were mentioning something about long-term. You're looking 5 years in advance. Is that what you're looking at as the time horizon for these projects to roll out?
Well, let me tell you. I lived in Los Angeles for a long time. I know it's a bit of a tangent, but I'll come back into it. Trust me, and I'll maneuver back into it. I lived in Los Angeles for almost 10 years, and I took some acting classes over there. It's actually acting and voice classes are actually really good for anybody going into business development, because it helps you. It's not about being on TV, being on film. It's about knowing yourself, knowing how to conduct yourself, how to carry yourself, how to carry your voice, how to carry your body, and how to present yourself to the people that you're with. And in business, that's very important. And so my acting teacher, he always said that it takes 10 years to make an actor, meaning that from the time you start acting to the time you actually become a professional, a seasoned actor, it takes 10 years. And it's true, because even with actors that get famous right away, you can see that if they last for 10 years, the guy like for example, Keanu Reeves. Look at Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves, 10 years after Bill and Ted, and Bill and Ted. Two different Keanu Reeves. Just like with everybody else, it just takes time to get seasoned. Well, the same is true, but what he also said is it doesn't mean that you cannot work within that time. It doesn't mean that you're going to be successful within that time. And so that the same kind of goes for us. Yes, I think in 5-year plan constructs, but it doesn't mean that we have to wait 5 years for something to happen. Some things are happening in the next few months. Some things are happening in the next year. Some things are happening in the next 5 years. All these things are going to be exciting. In fact, the things that are going to be happening in the next few months are going to be very exciting. Again, I'm sorry for being vague, but I just cannot make any announcements. But I would say that the projects that we're putting together and the opportunities that we're working on are very significant, and it is probably with companies that you know very well and brands that you use very well. And I believe that you'll be very excited when you hear the announcements about what we're doing with all these enterprises.
Well, I'm excited just to hear announcements about announcements. Now, I do have a question. Yeah. I know we hear that from viewers and people on Twitter, and we'll say, "Hey, are you making an announcement about an announcement?" Yeah, I'm glad that you absolved yourself of that and said, "I'm not going to make an announcement about an announcement." But I learned a lot from you already, a lot just during this podcast. I thought business development was going to be a lot of board meetings and looking at charts and talking to the big wigs and stuff like that. But it sounds like business development also involves exploratory surgery, where you got to kind of go out there and get your hands dirty and figure out what's going on. And so it leads me to a question to say, what is the funnest thing about business development? What do you really enjoy doing? Like, what one thing is you enjoy the most?
Well, yes, you are correct. Many things do involve getting your hands dirty, sort of speak. And I tell you personally, what's the most exciting thing for me is the exploratory aspect of it. Going out to a new market, going out to a new country, and really, I get on the ground, right? I land, I get out, I take about a day to kind of breathe this country in and to understand what's going on in this country, and to really start to understand and put together the opportunities there are for us and for the industry in that particular country, in that particular market. That is what is the most exciting thing. It's this feeling of of coming to a new world and exploring a new world and starting these things up. And of course, carrying these things through, all these initiatives through, is very important. Yes, it's very important. But for me, the most exciting thing is the finding of a new opportunity, to the understanding. And I get to a country and I get over there and I speak to a couple of people, and that feeling that comes to me is like, wow, there is a lot of cool stuff going on over here. And then all these ideas start popping into your head. Okay, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. We can take this part of Cardano and actually plug it in here. We can take this part of business development, plug it in here. That's what excites me, and amongst other things, of course.
Awesome, thank you.
That was a great response. Great response. It's very refreshing to see when we've been interviewing. This is episode 12, and we've had several guests, and it's very refreshing to see the IOHK employees and people that are involved with this project are just as passionate, if not more passionate, than all of us, investors that are sitting in our house waiting for things to happen and reading the news constantly. But you have people that are working for this project that are truly passionate and truly want to move the stick forward, and that's wonderful to hear. And I would like to go back to what you said previously, and I didn't make to. I know that you're a business development guy. You know what's in the works more than the average person, and you're under certain NDAs, and there are certain things that you can't release. But It just, people are not aware that IOHK is working behind the scenes. You're working, you're developing partnerships, and they will come to the light eventually. People just have to be patient and understand that these processes, they need to be fully fleshed out before just announcing. We all know other crypto projects out there that, you know, they don't even have a partnership and they're already claiming partnerships, and that turns out to be a lie afterwards. So I like how Cardano is doing it. When things are solid and it's in writing, that's when it's going to be announced. I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Daniel.
Yeah. Actually, yes, I would like to say something about that. One of the biggest issues, and one of the reasons why the market deflated, was precisely what you just said. They were hype announcements. Companies would go out there and they would make this hype announcement. Oh, we got a partnership with, God. God is going to be using the blockchain X to do all of his God stuff. Buy our token. And then, of course, all these people's like, oh my God, I know God. I've spoken to him before. He's going to be using blockchain. I need to buy this token because the official God token. And people would just go and buy these tokens, and without understanding what these companies do. And then, of course, and then God would say, "Is like, wait a second, no. I didn't say that." And he's like, throw a lightning bolt at you, and things just go downstream, and that's not good. What there needs to be is substance. And that's what we are. I guess, we are the anti-hype. So I've seen people's comments and responses and saying, well, you guys don't you guys don't make these big announcements, and you guys don't do this, don't do that, you guys don't have, you guys don't market, you guys, well, we don't make premature announcements. When we make an announcement, okay, we don't want to lie to the community, even inadvertently lie to the community. We want to be straight, and we want to be honest, and we want the community to take our word for what it is, instead of having to, to say like, well, these guys said that before, but at last time it was BS, and so it's probably going to be like 50-50. We don't want to be in that particular category. But when we make an announcement, that announcement is serious. And Yes, we do have a nice business development department. We have several members in there. We have weekly meetings. We have weekly meetings with our enterprise team. So there's definitely, I mean, our executive vice president, Diane Sheppers, a wonderful lady. I'm really excited to work with her because she's really bringing just shape and form to business development in this country, really shaping it up on such a high level where you can just see that, yes, if we just follow through with this, it'll be huge, you know. And yes, we are engaging in business development every week. We have a team of business development that's growing, and there are a lot of different exciting opportunities out there that we're working on. And very soon you will start hearing about a lot of these opportunities, and I believe that he will be very excited. It's not going to be one of those they're doing the what with the who. No.
Yeah. Can I bring up something along that lines too, as far as your business development and marketing is? I noticed with IOHK and Emergo, when it comes to software development and security, they are very open and very transparent, and that's what the community wants to see. So I want to bring up a point of contention that I see in the community is they always want transparent, which I agree with, and I think that's awesome. On the engineering side and on the security side, transparency is very, very important. But make sure I understand it correctly, is if you're transparent about your marketing strategy for the future or your business strategy 5 years from now, if you publicize that to everyone, your competitors will steal it, won't they?
Well, the phrase, often imitated, never duplicated. I believe that, of course, we cannot disclose every single thing that we do just because what you said, some things might be under NDA, some things might be a little too early to bring out to the public. And as I said, we don't want to lie. We want to be honest about what we do. And transparency, transparency doesn't mean that you have to give everybody a play-by-play. What you do is you have to give people transparency about what you do when it actually takes shape, when it's actually something that is actually rolling. It's viable. It's in the process. And no, I don't believe that that anybody can really steal from us. I don't really think so. Because, well, are they just gonna are they gonna make carbon copies of all of us and go out and pretend they're Cardano? What we have is unique, and the uniqueness is not just the product itself. The uniqueness is the mission. The uniqueness is the vision, the team. Everybody on the team. Charles, Diane, John. You spoke to John, the director of our African operation. I mean, everybody. And I mean, look, if I sit here and start giving shout outs, I'll give shout outs to about 200 people because everybody's doing an amazing job. Nobody's sitting there and slacking off. And you can't steal that. How are you going to steal that? You can't, I can go and get a cardboard box and draw a Rolls Royce symbol on it, but it's not going to be a Bentley. It's still going to be a cardboard box. So they could try, but I don't believe that they will succeed. And you're correct about the technical aspect of it. We are transparent about that because that's a lot easier to be transparent about. Because we try to stay with engage with the developer community, with the open source community, actually, one of the things that I do, actually, I've been doing it a little longer than I've been doing business development at IOHK. I was actually originally a project manager for the sales, the pre-sale app that handled the pre-sale for Cardano. That was my initial job before I switched over to other things at IOHK. And one of the things that I do is I put together a weekly technical report with the help of several others, of course, the team, the project managers, and several people from our comms department. It's available on the Cardano.org website. I don't know if you might be familiar with it, might not be. That's easy. That's something where I get information, I process the information, I pull out what's interesting for the community, I put it out there. That's more black and white. Some things are not just black and white. Some things have to be gauged. Is this actually true? Is this actually important? Is this actually viable? So yeah, transparency is a tricky thing, but it's definitely important, and we try our best to stay as transparent as possible without really overdoing it, if you know what I mean.
That sounds good. That was a great response. Rick, I think it's about that time to head over to the Reddit questions. Let's try to get some in. I don't know if you wanted to start with the questions and then we can alternate.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I wanted to let the Redditors know, thank you very much for putting in these questions. We have some fantastic questions this week. In the past, the questions got a little bit, how would you say, maybe not adversarial in nature, but it's kind of like we have a guest on the show and we invite them on, right? And it's not the kind of questions you would ask someone who you invited on your show. But there are really good questions. They need to be critical and thoughtful and respectful all at the same time. So critical, thoughtful, respectful, and great questions this week. Fantastic. Our first set comes from Reddit user Spoken Legacy. And I'll read through this and then we'll get to the question part of it. But Spoken Legacy writes, I work as a low-level corporate economist for a small bank, size-wise of $2 billion in the Midwest of the USA. We have branches from South Dakota all the way down to Texas. Many of the younger employees and tech staff are curious about the potential of smart contracts and how it could streamline some aspects of bank operations. However, the C-suites is not the most technical minded. Now, I don't know what C-suites means, but I think that's a part of the business. And granted, a bank this size might be punching a little too high to integrate ADA to work in our operations. So I think they're saying the business is a little bit small. But I do give presentations to the board of directors on economic developments on a quarterly basis. Any suggestions or ideas or concepts that I could use to inform them about the potential that using Cardano would bring about. The board is pretty chill, as in 2017, I gave them a brief presentation about Bitcoin and Litecoin, and they seemed interested in the topic. The question would be trim, but I just thought I'd give as much relevant detail as possible. Spoken Legacy, your detail level was perfect. So it sounds like they have a small business bank, and they would like to have some advice on how they would present Cardano to the board of directors.
Well, what I would say is, first of all, you really need to think about what use cases you're looking to basically fulfill by just blockchain tech, not just Cardano in general, but blockchain tech. Because as I said, that many of the things that we do are just better versions of what's out there. It's not necessarily like we're reinventing the wheel. Some things are that we put together are brand new. It's new concepts, and then some of these things are just better. Like say for example, the KVM net is just as Charles said, is everything that the Ethereum virtual machine should have been. So you have to think about it in that particular construct. So what can ADA offer, or what actually ADA is, the native coin of Cardano. What can Cardano offer to you? Well, what are you looking to do? Are you looking to work your inner contract chains using smart contracts? Well, then there's several different options for that. You said that I guess the C is for C-level, so I guess the execs are not too tech savvy. Well, if you're looking to utilize smart contracts in your particular organizations, for somebody who's not too tech savvy, they could probably use something like Marlowe, which is a modeling language and which it can be used with almost just it's pretty much all visual. And it's not Marlowe itself, but the interface with Marlowe can be used just basically as a GUI, and just all you have to think about is the logic behind what the contract you're trying to put together. You could use ADA itself as a means of consolidation within your particular bank, moving across funds. You could possibly use, and we can talk about this, one of our enterprise solutions to create your own blockchain solution. It just depends what you want to do with it. What I would say is, and this is actually something that I do quite often, the best thing for you to do is, and do not hesitate, please email me directly. And we will set up a time to have a conversation, and I can actually get down to exactly what you guys see as the best use case for blockchain in your particular organization, what your needs are in your organization, and then I can tell you, okay, so these particular Cardano products are the best fit for what you're looking to do. So I would say, just give me a call. send me an email.
Okay, I'll see if I can sort that out. That was Reddit user Spoken Legacy, and we'll try to get you his email. I know how to get it. I'll get his email, so I'll pass it along there without making it super ultra public. And also, I'd like to follow up your comments with something Charles Hoskinson often states is or asks, what problem are you trying to solve? I've heard him ask that before, and that's a lot of times if someone says, what am I trying to solve? That might help them with figuring out what they would do with it. So we'll get your email out there. So Philippe, would you like to go with the next one?
Sure, sounds good. So we have a question from Haldane-FRS. It's a three-part question. We're going to focus on question number 2 because I believe that this was answered earlier. We can't talk about what's going on in 2019. It will be known probably later on in this year. But the question number 2 is, who are the competitors of Cardano in 2019? So I'm guessing that they're referring to other blockchain companies, or is Cardano in a league of its own?
Well, let's see. That's actually it's an interesting question. I'll tell you why. It depends on who is, it depends on who's asking and who's looking at it. For me, I believe that we're in a league of our own, and I'll tell you why. Just aside from working for IOHK and working on the project, as you mentioned before, I'm a fan of the project. I'm a fan of Charles. He's a personal friend, and he's just a visionary. And I've been around for almost 20 years. In fact, this year it is 20 years since I've started in IT, and I've been around a lot of people that talk big things and sound good, but they're just full of it. Charles is it's amazing. He's just not. I mean, it sounds like what this guy must be crazy. He's talking about these giant concepts, these big lofty ideas. I mean, come on. And then you look at it, and I'll tell you, and a good example is actually my interview with Charles when I was interviewing for IOHK with IOHK a couple of years back. In 2016, I interviewed with Charles. This is back when actually Charles had the time to interview everybody that joined the company. Of course, at that point, there was about 15 people in the company, including me when I joined, and Charles and Jeremy, the founder and the co-founder. And Charles was giving me this. We spoke for about an hour actually, and he was telling me, "Look, Dan, I'll tell you, in a year or so, in 2 years, we're going to have, and actually said, in a year, we're going to have like 100 people working for us. And we're going to have, one of the biggest blockchains in the world, and it's going to be great. And we're going to have all this research done and this and that. And you know what? And I'm thinking, you know what? If 20% of what this guy is saying happens, it would be amazing. Fast forward, end of 2017, we got like 100 people in the company. We're, people know Cardano, and I'm just sitting there and like, oh my God, this guy was serious, like serious, like actually can do it type of serious. That's amazing. And so yeah, it's very inspiring to work in that kind of environment, and I just hope that personally to keep up that type of energy. Yeah, I went a bit of on a fanboy tangent. Sorry about that. Well, of course, the obvious, I guess, competitors are companies like Ethereum or like Consensus. I would say Neo. I would say even EOS. Is it a fair game? I don't think so. I really think that what we have to offer is much stronger. It's much more refined and defined. And as I said, I don't really have to shill. I never shill. I never go out there and say, "Oh, don't use company A. We're better because we got blah 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 blah." I always tell people, I said, you know what? go try them, because I know what the other guys' issues are, and I know how we are solving these issues. And all I tell them, I say, look, go try it. Go work with their system, and then check out what we have. Please come back to me. I don't want I it'll sell itself. I don't need to sell you anything. And so that's, I mean, that's really the nature of the beast. They are the competitors, but it's not a competition. I don't believe. I mean, of course, like say for example, the Neo community has been very good, been very nice to Charles, and of course, they have a really good product, and I don't want to diss on their product as well, as well as Ethereum. Of course, their blockchain 2.0. They did bring a lot of innovation to the field, and we really appreciate that, and we respect that. Um, just we are the next iteration. We are the next step up, and so that's why I don't feel like we have to kind of fight for the same, I guess, for lack of a better word, scraps.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Rick, next question.
Okay, next question. Oh, I like this one. All right, this is a good one. So the question is, I want to add something to this. From Reddit user Trade Feeds, do you plan to move to Wyoming? If yes, when will you be personally moving? And I would like to add to that as, I drove through Wyoming in about 1992, and they still had 5-digit license plates. So there's lots of room to grow in Wyoming. All right. So do you plan to move to Wyoming?
Well, I think my wife would mind that, since she's Japanese and we live in Japan. If I suddenly move to Wyoming, she'd be really upset. No, I personally don't plan to move to Wyoming. I would like to visit Wyoming. I remember last time I was in Wyoming, it reminded me of Mars, the planet. Um, and it's a beautiful state. No, I'm not moving there. Yes, we are going to be relocating there. We're going to be a 100% American company, and I am excited about that. So yes to the first part. Yes, we are moving to Wyoming. No to the second part. I'm not moving to Wyoming. But if this is who I think it is, we will possibly go to the U.S. later this year, and hopefully your kids are enjoying what we have sent them, and just make sure. Just listen. If this is the person that I think it is, don't let them just go through the box by themselves. There's a lot of candy in there. Okay, just pace it. Okay, pace it out.
That was the second part of their comment. It was a personal note to Dan. Thank you for all the snacks and presents you sent my kids from Japan. Thank you, Reddit user Trade Feeds. And I think I've seen you on the forum as well. Thanks for your participation. Question comes from Reddit user TREZOR in Canada. First of all, thank you for allowing me to post my questions, and please keep up the good work. Please note I would rate my Cardano knowledge as basic, maybe low to intermediate on a good day. So my questions may reflect this, and that's perfectly fine, TREZOR in Canada, because you're right there with me. All right. So my questions to Daniel are, compared to other platforms in this space, can you tell me how IOHK is doing in regards to business development partnerships? There's 3 questions to it. How HK is doing in regards to business development partnerships. So I guess this question is complementary to a previous question about competitors. This question is asking about allies.
Yes. So again, partnerships. We are developing several good partnerships. Right now, we're partnering up with various blockchain associations around the world, actually, as well as other projects and other groups. We're partnering up with associations in Switzerland. We are also working with several partners in Israel right now. We're going to be working uh, with several companies in the Caribbean and Barbados. There are also several very interesting partnerships that are actually also going to be coming out of Africa. And again, that's something. It's not an announcement about an announcement. It's something else. But yeah, you'll hear about that very soon. Um, so partnerships. What we're trying to do is, again, we're trying to expand the reach of what we're doing. The different partnerships we're putting together are community-based partnerships, where it might be an association that energizes communities, that energizes developers, energizes entrepreneurs. Other partnerships that we're putting together are partnerships with associations that deal with regulators, because that is also very important. So that's also in the works right now. We're trying to engage different associations that educate their regulators and work with regulators to have a more sensible and more tolerant blockchain and crypto policies, so that we can basically further mass adoption. Um, that's it in a nutshell. And again, this is always growing. You must understand. Every day, there's never a dull day working in the Cardano ecosystem. There's always something going on. There's always new opportunities out there. There's always new people out there that are looking to do business with us. There's new partnerships forming every single day. And again, the reason why, and forgive my vagueness, the reason why I'm being vague like this is because, like I said, I want to give you definites when it's definitely done. I don't want to give you half truths and then have something else, take a deterrent and say, okay, a detour and say, okay, you know what? It's actually, we're thinking it's going to be like this, but now it's actually like this. I think that's counterproductive. I think that people want to know what's going on, and they want to know it when it is at a point of where it's solid. You can go on it. You can say, okay, so we got this, and we can just use it as a stepping stone to the next level.
All right. Thank you for that. And so that concludes our Reddit questions. Thank you, Reddit user Trezor in Canada. Philippe, we have a question we often ask. How did you get into Cardano? Did you want to go into that?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, how did I get into Cardano? Well, as you mentioned before, I was the CTO of a small company out here in Osaka. It was a very interesting company. We worked with augmented reality, very different field. And so I have a friend out here. He's a big community guy, a big blockchain community guy and crypto guy out here. His name is David. And yeah, he was just nonstop about talking about crypto, talking about Bitcoin for a couple of years. And at first, I was, kind of almost, I'm sorry to say, almost kind of mocking him about it. I said, God, you're just too obsessed with it. You're just, you got to take it easy on the crypto talk and the Bitcoin talk. Find another hobby. But eventually, I started reading about it and said, this is actually pretty interesting. Actually, at first, I am a developer. I developed developed software for a long time, for over a decade. And for me, you can't just throw lofty libertarian constructs into the air and hope that I'll catch on to them. It's like, no. Okay, I understand what you're trying to do on the social economic level, but I really want to know also, how does this thing work? Like, what does it do? How do you do it? You can't just make something out of nothing. What do you do? And the first struggle I had was actually trying to figure out exactly what the heck is this blockchain. I mean, how does the blockchain work? Because there was either these really simple basic videos. Well, this is Bob. Bob is doing this, and this is Kevin, and Kevin is doing that. And the blockchain lets them both decide what's going to happen to their stuff. And blockchain this, blockchain is like, okay, yeah, thank you. That was really interesting. But what the heck does this thing do? How does it work? And then on the other hand, I had these videos from, like MIT research and these guys talking these big terms and giant, really smart sounding word salad that again made like, guys, I don't know what this stuff means yet. You have to tell me, okay, what is this? What is that? What is off chain, on chain? What is distributed ledger? I know what distributed means at a ledger, but what is a distributed ledger in this particular construct? What does it mean? Why is it a blockchain? What's a block? What's in the block? You know, so, and this is going back a few years. So now there's a lot more really good intermediate material where they don't dumb it down too much. And in fact, a lot of our videos are like that. You guys, if you guys haven't already, please check out our YouTube channel. We have a lot of amazing videos for different levels of knowledge, from the basics to the very complex, and everything in between. And so eventually I came across Charles, and I saw a few things that he did, especially with Ethereum. For the first thing, of course, after Bitcoin, I heard about Ethereum, and and then it's like, who's this Charles Hoskinson guy? And then parallel to that, a friend of mine was actually friends with Jeremy Wood, the co-founder of IOHK. And so, he suggested that I speak to Jeremy, maybe about coming in onto the team. And so just one thing led to another. And then I found out it was like one of those, spontaneous things. Somebody else told me about it. Somebody else told me about IOHK. And within the same week, my friend told me about IOHK, and I met her. And then it just the stars aligned. And so I came and I basically, this was before I knew about Cardano. I just found out about Charles. I found out about Jeremy, and I found out about what they were doing. And to me, it seemed very cool. I am a skeptic, so I got to be honest that and as I mentioned before, I was skeptical about what they were doing. But I did have faith in them as business people, as somebody who knows what they're doing, have a vision. And I guess that's how I came to know about Cardano. That's how I came to know about OHK. And I'm really glad that I stayed with the company. And I mean, of course, right now, I can't see myself doing anything else. I really can't. I am really, emotionally, spiritually, and financially involved with Cardano, with IOHK, and I hope to do so for a long time.
Thank you for that wonderful story. It was great.
That was a wonderful story. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to Reddit community. Thank you again for all the support. We're going to wrap this episode up. Daniel, I'll give you the final words if you have any final words. If not, we'll just end the episode. But we appreciate all of the support. Keep on checking out our podcast. We are trying to make improvements week by week. We are sifting through comments through our email, through Twitter, through YouTube. Just keep on trying to reach out to us. We are going through everything. Your voices are heard. As I was saying last episode, we have another channel called TCE Clips, where we cut little clips of the podcast and put it up for people that do not have the hour plus to listen to this podcast. But we'd like to thank Daniel for joining us. This is the business development side of IOHK, and things are looking very bright for the future. I am always bullish on Cardano, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. So, Daniel, Rick, if you have any final words, now's your time. If not, we'll say bye to everyone.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who stayed with us, who stuck with us, and who's bullish about Cardano, who's bullish about what we're doing, who has faith in us. Thank you very much, guys, because without you, we just, we would have no purpose. We wouldn't be here. So And please, if anybody has any questions that I can answer, please do not hesitate to contact me. My information is on the iohk.io website. I'd be more than glad to answer any questions that I can. And please know that, again, yes, as was said before, your voices are heard. We try to get to everybody. We try to answer everybody's question, and we try to get as much information out there as possible. And also, please do not hesitate to let us know how we can do better. And so, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the program.
Thanks, Daniel. Bye, everyone.